Hello my friends, in this video I would like to expose gravity and with that obliterate the globe and the heliocentric model. I decided to go with the gravity because I think it is the core of their belief, and if I disprove it, maybe they will also see there is something wrong with their model. I never heard this theory before on any chat. I typed few times this theory, and I think it is just a different point of view. I think the air is fluid and you think it's gas. Well, it is gas, but we must treat it more like a fluid because it behaves like a fluid. The air effects are the same as a fluid, and we can test this. We missed this little information which is really important in understanding of our atmosphere. I'm also not a native English speaker, so please excuse me if sometimes something will be off. Okay, then let's start, shall we? We begin with the first slide or first web page where you can clearly see the air definition, and look how it defines it. Oh, and I forgot, I will not use any formulas or any math, so I believe 11-year-old people can understand this clearly. Okay, let's see the definition of air. Now, the ballers claim they are smart and we have nothing. They don't even understand the definition of air. They understand the first part, chemical part, but the second, the mixture of varying amount of moisture and particulate matter, they don't understand this. They ask the question, why can we see from Europe to East America? This is why. A giant void, nothingness. Oh, this is the definition of NASA. The money vanished into thin air. A breeze of wind. Airborne maneuver. Aircraft gave air to their grievances. This is something ballers will need after they discover the mixture with varying amount of moisture and particulate matter is what is in the air, and this is why they cannot see from Europe to East Coast and from West Coast to Japan, for example. A part of limitation of the what can physical eye see. If you go to debate with ballers and they don't understand the composition of air and they claim you have nothing, this is just ridiculous. And now let's see the definition of fluid: having particles that easily move and change their relative position without a separation of the mass, and that easily yield to pressure, capable of flowing, and they are subject to change or movement. There are a lot of metaphoric uses of fluid, like fluid movement, or like fluid computer program, as you see in the economy, fluid asset, and many more. Now, what is important here is you should always keep in mind the air is fluid, and if this characteristic apply to the air. In the next definition of fluid, like a continuous amorphous substance whose molecules move freely past one another and that has the tendency to assume the shape of its container, a liquid or a gas. Yes, a gas. Of relating to or characteristic of a fluid, readily reshaped, pliable. I really think this is extremely important to think of the air as a fluid, and always keep in mind, air is a fluid. Remember this, please. Now let's move to another definition of fluid, where it's a substance as a liquid or gas that is capable of flowing and that changes its shape at a steady rate when acted upon by a force tending to change its shape. Pertaining to a substance that easily changes its shape, capable of flowing, consisting of or pertaining to fluids, changing readily, shifting, not fixed, stable or rigid. This is another great definition. And now we are coming to the more interesting part, where we will explore how can air be a fluid if it's a gas. And the question is, aren't fluids liquid? Well, the answer is very nice. While liquids are fluids, fluids are not necessarily liquids. And you can read the rest of the answer where they explain to you the phases of matter and include liquids, gases and plasmas. Yes, plasma is also a fluid. And why are they fluids? Because they don't have a definite shape and instead take the shape of their container. And this is clearly the definition of fluid. And therefore air is also a fluid. And if you are still not convinced the air is a fluid, here is a beautiful answer. Although the fluid is sometimes used as an alternative word for liquid, air is treated as a fluid in the field of fluid mechanics. Isn't it wonderful? I told you, air is a fluid, and we must really treat it that way. Their effects, their properties, their predictions, experiments, everywhere. The air is a fluid. And we can go further, like you see, fluids refers to a substance through which atoms can flow freely. While there are differences between the ways liquids and gases behave, there are enough similarities to make this categorization useful. Plasmas are also considered fluids. Then the field of fluid mechanics contrasts with that of solid mechanics. Not all substances, however, fall into one of these two categories. Rheology deals with these substances, which include sludges, muds, and certain bodily fluids. Let's take a look at the Wikipedia definition of fluid. They go on in physics, these are substances that continually deforms, flows, under an applied shear stress. Fluids are substances that have zero shear modulus, or in simpler terms, a fluid is a substance which cannot resist any shear force applied to it. Now this is another not really honest, a bit hidden answer. For the same reason, you will not think of air as a fluid, because there is the catch in this. If you use air as a fluid, and I will show you later that their use in modeling air as a fluid, you can find basically the air is fluid. I will repeat this I think a few times, and you can see in this answer liquids form a free surface, that is a surface not created by the container, while gases do not. The distinction between solids and fluids is not entirely obvious, but it is except some plastic solids. And yeah, another example of not clear answer or definition of fluid. Okay, enough of descriptions of air and fluids. Now we can take a look how the air behaves in the wind tunnel, and you can see it's like a river of water. When they release smoke or small particles, of course the flow is really high if we compare it to the river, but you can see the similarities there. Now if you look at the water, I should say air disturbances, you can see rotations, movement around objects, like the stone in the water or in the stream, and there is no denying of it. You can find a lot of examples, pictures, diagrams, research of this kind, and please take a look, take a careful observations of how the air behaves, and what are the patterns of disturbances. Yeah, take a look. There are many pictures, many diagrams. Just please take the time, and you will see similarities between water and the air. With the next example we will expand even more, add more parameters to the air, and we will take a look at the weather map, and they are using temperature, pressure, surface pressure, clouds, wind gas, and other things which are important for weather and weather forecasting. Now this will be another example where air is an important factor. Let's take a look. And I invite you to examine and research a few weather maps and compare them. Look for the wind patterns or high pressure, low pressure. You will see it's all connected with our wind atmosphere plane. Please do your own research, take a look. There is a connection of how the air behaves and what weather we have. Next we will take a look at buoyancy and what is buoyancy, and I would like to emphasize few facts which are extremely important to debunk gravity. Buoyancy is the upward force caused by fluids such as water. This concept helps to explain why some things float while other objects sink. And I will empathize to remember the sink. This is nothing new. It has been known for almost 2000 years, as you see. The same idea of buoyancy helps determine what will float in the water and what will sink. Now, it isn't the size or shape of an object that primarily determines buoyancy, but the relation between an object's weight compared to the weight of the water the object displaces. Think about it for a minute. If you remember the weather maps where we introduced the temperature, now you can see Here the example of lava lamp where temperature influences the density, and this makes the lava lamp work. Here we can also add density where closely packed molecules of the wood mean more denser wood will sink more than molecules that are less dense. The next example is a submarine where they can manipulate buoyancy with ballast tanks and compressed air, and you have a diagram, easy diagram, how the submarine works, and you can see when there is a lot of water in the ballast tanks, the submarine sinks. When they expel water, the submarine emerges. It is all buoyancy, and you have to do it is all made possible because the submarine become less dense if it has more air inside, and water is just a medium to manipulate the density of submarine. And finally we come to buoyancy, where in physics buoyancy is upthrust or upward force exerted by a fluid that opposes the weight of immersed object. In a column of fluid, pressure increases with depth as a result of the weight of the overlaying fluid. Thus, the pressure at the bottom of a column of fluid is greater than at the top of the column. The pressure difference results in a net upward force on the object. The magnitude of the force exerted is proportional to that pressure difference. And for this reason, an object whose density is greater than that of the fluid in which it is submerged tends to sink. If the object is either less dense than the liquid or is shaped appropriately as a boat, the force can keep the object afloat. Now, this is true for the air also, not only for the water. And now we are approaching the magical realm of the physics. As you can see, we came near the gravitational field and gravity defining a downward direction. I will explain it later that this is just bullshit. Downward direction. Here you can clearly see how they mixed magic with reality, as stated in the next sentence, like in a situation of fluid statics, the net upward buoyancy force is equal to the magnitude of the weight of fluid displaced by the body. Now, this is natural phenomena where gravity and gravitational field are just magical and non-realistic properties. We can stress that air and gases and almost all fluids just behave in accordance to the first Newton law. And we will take a closer look at first Newton law now. In accordance to the first Newton law, an object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion with the same speed and in the same direction unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. There are two clauses or parts to this statement, one that predicts the behavior of stationary objects and the other that predicts the behavior of moving objects. You could take a look at the diagram if you want to visualize this statement, these clauses. There is a simple experiment or observation or test, whatever you want to call it. You can try it yourself with a glass of water in the car, moving car. Drive with the car, turn, brake, and you will see how the water will spill over the glass, because the water will tend to stay in motion while you turn or while you brake. And this is in essence the first Newton law observable in everyday life. It is nothing really complicated about this, it's all rather simple. And if you think of air as a fluid, the same things apply to air. So, first Newton law also manage the properties of air and how the air behave. It is the same as for the water or for any other gas or fluid. Let's talk about Reynolds number. The Reynolds number has wide applications ranging from liquid flow in a pipe to the passage of air over an aircraft wing. It is used to predict the transition from laminar to turbulent flow, and is used in the scaling of similar but different size flow situations, such as between an aircraft model in a wind tunnel and the full-size version. The predictions of the onset of turbulence and the ability to calculate scaling effects can be used to help predict fluid behavior on a large scale, such as in local or global air or water movement, and thereby the associated meteorological and climatological effects. Well, here they put fluids and gases together again, or should I say air and fluids. As you can see, there is something on this, but they are not ready to admit it. So we will take a look by ourselves. Reynolds number is extremely important when in the processes which for liquids increases the chances of cavitation. You know, cavitation is a big problem with boat propellers and such things. Air cannot abrase the material, but water definitely can. You know, with water they can cut iron, so this is the same principle. Enough pressure and you destroy the element of the ship. Next we will take a look at the question, why do objects float? And the answer is again mixing fluids with air. The ability of object to float or buoyancy comes from relative densities of the object and the fluid medium, whether it is water, air or another liquid. So you see, this is again an example where air behaves like a water or another liquid. In fact, air is again fluid. And we can notice here again mixing, yes, here again mixing magical forces with natural forces. and because in the full answer you can find the word gravity, which was never proven and is still a theory. And in the next sentence is really reflection of the real world. Different fluids have different densities. For example, air is much less dense than water, and again, air is a fluid. This is the reflection of our reality. There are 4 factors who rules our reality. In fact, these 4 factors can substitute everything what gravity is supposed to do. These 4 factors are density, buoyancy, temperature, and pressure. We dealt with all 4 these factors, and if necessary I will make another more detailed video about just these 4 factors and why and how can they substitute the magic gravity. It is time to attack our heliocentric model in full-scale attack, and according to all that you heard today, and according to Baller's own description on how the heliocentric model developed. By the way, it is impossible, because if you see, they say the rocks are the first planets, and then the gravity is much less strong, so the only gases and gaseous planet. Well, this is total bullshit. First of all, how would then the sun be possible? It is made of 2 the lightest gases, and the parody is in the center of heliocentric model. And then, just a laugh, there is Uranus, which is not classified as planet anymore, which it isn't, but supposed to be made of rock, and is again the further from the sun. Really working, this heliocentric model. If you believe everything, if you can think, if you don't have the brain power to think, then yes, then heliocentric absolutely work. But if you examine it as it is presented, it cannot work. It doesn't work and will never work. There is only one factor in this: is you must believe it is real, and you must believe it works as they tell you, as they told you, as they brainwashed you, because there is no other way that could possibly work. Not according to gravity, not according to buoyancy, density, temperature and pressure. Basically, it's impossible model. And if you still like globe heads, they still need a model of flat earth. Well, if your model doesn't work, why the hell will you need our model? We don't know it yet. We don't have definitive answers, because we cannot access certain parts and certain instruments, certain parts of the flat earth we cannot go. So it's really difficult to really make a hard, strong case for the flat earth. But there is still the fact, I mean strong case in the model world, but in the reality there is one fact which will never be explained, and this is how the hell can we see more than we could or should see on the ball. Explain this. And now I have a special statement especially for globe heads, globe believers. Never forget we used to be you, and none of us belong to the flat earth society. No one believes the upward floating disk theory of gravity. You guys don't know anything more about gravity than we do. Do at least some research into NASA, Freemasons, and the government before you begin to talk anything. And you can't just insert flat earth into the Copernican model and everything will work. And don't think your model is working, because I just explained you it doesn't. And we cannot fall from the edge or something. When you make videos like top 5, top 10, top 20 questions flat earthers cannot answer, we really easy debunk all of them. Please try to keep up with the rest of the world, which is awakening, and well, hopefully one day you will see everything you were told was a lie. As for the flat earthers, I have also a special statement, and with same rules as before, which mean 11-year-old person will easily understand this. Gravity is fake theory and never been proven. Rotation of the earth never been proven, just a theory. Distance from the sun and from the planets, all never been proven. Diameter of the earth never been proven, never observed, never really existed, except in mathematics. So the formulas work, but the reality doesn't. As for gravity, which is my video today, we don't need it. We can explain easy everything with pressure, which means more dense. If you have same gas, and more dense will stay down and less dense would be above it. Temperature, colder gas will stay below, warmer, hotter will stay above, colder. Buoyancy and density, if the gas is less dense, will be above the more dense gas. And the first Newton law is the only thing we need for the gases to be in place. Where are they? When we can observe them, we can breathe them every day, every year. And this is basically it. Air is a fluid, behave like a fluid. You can experiment with it like it is a fluid. And basically this is this. I forgot the down. First of all, downward, it's our perception. We decided where is down, where is up, where is left, and where is right. But the earth is like the electric inertial plane, which means, in simple words, it's a static charged plane. It has a static electricity. The positive is atmosphere plane and negative is the ground, and everything place itself according to first Newton law and static flat Earth. And flat Earth, it's not a model, it is reality where we live. Sooner you realize this, better it will be. Have a great time discovering fantastic flat Earth. See ya in the next video. Bye bye.